Okay. At this time, want to recognize our sponsors for the Women's Resource Center of Alamance County. Thank you to our visionary sponsor, LabCorp. Thank you to our sustaining sponsor, Impact Alamance and Glen Raven. Thanks to our supporting sponsor, Exceed Technology. And I see that Barbara has an announcement, though I don't see her here. Barbara, are you here? Okay, if she jumps on later, we'll get the chance to hear from her. Our major sponsors, Elon University, Proponent Federal Credit Union, Always Best Care Senior Services, the Alamance Chamber of Commerce, Truliant Federal Credit Union, and it looks like they may have an announcement. Bonnie, are you on? Let's see or hear her. And Prime Personnel Resources Incorporated. On to our corporate sponsors, Erin Cockman with Milestone Wealth Management, the Twin Lakes Community, Katie Smith Photography, and Gilliam Bell Mosier. Thank you so much to all our sponsors. You guys make it possible for us to do the work that we do in the community. I want to send a thank you to our board members of the the Women's Resource Center. We've got an awesome slate of board members, a working board, and folks who are proud to be involved and engaged in the WRC. Thanks also to the supporters of Women's Resource Center. You all may know we don't have members anymore, so each person that contributes financially is considered a supporter of WRC. Please note that you can make donations online at wrcac.org/donate. We will gladly accept any donations that folks want to make. Big exciting news for our Working Women's Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022, just a month away from today. Vaughn Willoughby with Pritchett Farms Nurseries, and the exciting news that we'll be back in person. So I'm super excited about that. We are ready to get back and hang out with you guys in person. So please do register to join us March 23rd for Vaughn Willoughby with Pritchett Farms Nurseries. I'm going to bump it over to Susan.
Keep forgetting to click that button. But the good news is we won't be doing that in March. You'll have to mute me in person or unmute me. Welcome, everybody. We are glad that you're here today on a rainy day. No better place to be than with the Women's Resource Center and Working Women's Wednesday. We actually have some door prizes today. So for those of you who stay on the entire time, after our speaker finishes today, we will be doing a couple of door prizes, one with our 30th anniversary mug and another Vera Bradley bag. So stay tuned, and we'll do it right just after Shineece finishes her presentation today. Would like to thank everybody for your stories you're sharing. That's one of the things that we love about the work that we do here at the Women's Resource Center. Every woman that walks in our door that seeks services here has her own personal story, just like you do. Some of them, many of the ladies that come in are in some sort of life transition. And just like as you're thinking about your own stories, as we got started today, many of those stories involve some very difficult circumstances. I know in my own personal story, there's, each set of parents that I had their own set of obstacles that they had to overcome. The times were difficult. My parents grew up during the Depression. And I put in the chat that my dad was in school in South Carolina and obviously walked to school. And I think it was at least a mile. I don't know if it was farther than that or not, but I've seen the little one-room schoolhouse that he grew up in, or grew up going to school in. And when he did, there were only 11 grades. I would have enjoyed that when I was in school, but had to go another year. But the work that we do every day involves stories, and we're privileged and feel honored that each woman that comes in, that we coach and mentor, shares some of that story with us. We're excited today because we are going back in person. And I know we all have our own stories over the last 2 years. I can't even hardly believe that it's been 2 years since we had an in-person Working Women's Wednesday. So on March 23rd, we will be at Alamance Country Club. It will be a very limited seating event. So we're going to have 10 top tables with 6 people to a table. So when you see that announcement come out, you'll want to sign up, because we'll only be able to take about 50 people total. And we're looking forward to that. We're hoping that as things open up, it'll get a little bit better. And so maybe we'll have a few more people, and in June we'll have a few more people. The Herb Festival is coming up. That's our next biggest news. So our largest fundraiser is an herb festival, where we purchase plants from local nurseries that provide organic plants for us to sell at our festival. Last year it was an outdoor event, and this year we're going back inside First Presbyterian Church, as long as everything holds out and their reentry force keeps opening things up for us. But we're planning an indoor event. So we hope that you will put April 21st through April 23rd on your calendar. Don't buy plants until you've been to the Herb Festival. The Thursday, the 21st, will be opening from 5:30 to 7:30. So that's mostly a setup day for us. But from 5:30 to 7:30 in the evening, it will be a first sneak peek preview. So those are the early shoppers. There will be a $10 entry fee to get that sneak peek and the first pick of those great plants. And then on Friday and Saturday, we will be open. On Friday, it will be from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And on Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we hope we sell out. Our plant committee's working. They've already ordered the plants from the local nurseries. And in March, you'll get to hear from one of those. That will be Vaughn Willoughby with Pritchett Farms. So he's kind of kicking off our herb festival season. And you're going to see a lot of publicity. We'll be talking about our vendors over the next few weeks. And we'll also be putting out a call for volunteers. It's our largest event during the year and our single biggest need for volunteers. So stay tuned for that. Really excited to present our program speaker for today. Shineece Sellars is a friend of mine. I think I actually met her through a networking event with the Mebane Business Women's Networking Group. I have been to the African American Cultural Arts and History Center, and if you have not been, you really need to take the time to go. She is a financial advisor, full-time by day, and also the director of this museum. Since taking the position of director, Shineece has transformed the once mobile museum into a physical location where many community stories are shared. She continues to partner with various organizations in the community to promote inclusive learning about our surrounding area, right about the history right here in Alamance County. In her professional career as a financial advisor, she has worked with clients to provide education and best practices related to investment strategies to help them reach their long-term and short-term financial goals. Shineece believes that most, if not all, people are able to improve their life situations if provided with the sources and tools to do so. This is why education is at the core of what she does. Totally aligns with our mission because we believe that our Success Toolkit program provides women with the tools that they need to move their lives forward. As a native of Caswell County, North Carolina, Shineece is a country girl at heart. She likes outdoor activities such as four-wheeling and horseback riding, and after work, she spends hours watching dirt bikes and four-wheelers with her 2-year-old son and longtime partner. Shineece, we're delighted to have you as our speaker here today. We're going to turn it over to you, and so tell us some of those stories.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing good. Sorry, I'm multitasking as a parent today. So this is Ra Ali. She was born February 5th, so she is going on her 3rd week of life. So I have to update my bio because it does not just include my son anymore, it includes her. And also we have moved on from dirt bikes and now we are on dinosaurs. So we are now really big into dinosaurs. So every day is T-Rex and it's treetops, which stands for Triceratops. It's the dinosaur with the 3 horns. So that's the 2 he knows. He hasn't learned the others, but he just knows dinosaurs now. So I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. So can everybody see this? So this is our website, and I usually don't do a presentation from our website, but I have been hyping up our website all year long. This website was done by Professor Philip Motley students over at Elon. We do a lot of partnerships with Elon, which I'm going to talk about today here at the center. And this was through our partnership with Philip Motley's class, who is in, Philip Motley is a professor in communications. And his students put together this website last year, and they did an awesome job. But I'm going to really talk from this website today. For those who don't know, once again, my name is Shineece Sellars, and the African American Cultural Arts and History Center actually started from a vision of my mother. My mother, Jane Sellars, started this center back in 2017 is when we received our 501c3 status, our nonprofit status. And she actually, it wasn't supposed to be a cultural center initially. It actually started out with her collecting and documenting stories of the Richmond Hill community. And the Richmond Hill Community Center is a community is a area along Rawhut Street here in Alamance County. And so she was documenting those stories and trying to make that community a historic district. What ended up happening was, through one way or another, we found out that it was nearly impossible to do that. And she said, well, instead of trying to, make this community a historic district, why not just preserve the stories? And so that's exactly what she did. Before she actually created this center, she was always going around documenting stories. So before we had the Elon partnership, Power in Place, which I'll talk about, the way that she would document stories would go into people's homes and just take her phone and hit the record button. Now we are much more advanced with our Elon partnership, Power in Place. And with our Elon partnership, we're now able to collect these stories digitally. And we also have transcripts of those stories. So here on our website, once again, our mission is to preserve and collect local African American history. And when we say local, we do focus on Alamance County, but we do collect stories from Caswell, Orange County, Durham County, Guilford County. We collect those stories as well, but our core has been from Alamance County. So if you go to our website and then you hit on exhibits and scroll down, there's this term here called I hope I'm saying it right, griot. I think I'm saying that right. And this is a term I was not aware of until the Elon students presented this to me, but it is a term referring to storytellers, specifically in West Africa. But they felt like the title was deserving for what we do here at the center, because a lot of what we do is collecting stories from community members and then sharing those stories to tell how things were way back when. And so they thought this was a fitting title. So if you go to our virtual exhibits here, And I'll talk about the color of education in a little bit if we have some time, which I think we will. I think we will have time because you guys said 45 minutes. And it's usually very easy for me to fill up that 45 minutes. So then we have Power in Place, which is our collaboration with Elon. So through our collaboration with Elon, this is a picture from our most recent event here, which we did have at Elon. But what we do every year, we identify about 12 individuals that we feel are necessary for their stories to be documented and collected. It started out with being more so of the older generation. And now we have expanded to incorporate some of the young business owners, the young people here in Alamance County that are making change. And when I say young, I mean below the age of 50. So we consider that, sorry if anyone's over 50 in this group, sorry. You're not, I guess, as young, but you're still young. But we started collecting younger people's stories as well. So if you scroll down, we have Mr. Quanah Bigelow here who ran for Burleson City Council. We also have Gary Wiley Jr., who is a board member of ours. Okay, apparently you don't like that position. Okay, we're gonna throw you back. Okay. Then we have Roger Moore, who has been doing quite a bit of good networking here in Alamance County. Miss Janice Ratliff, who is above the age of 50, but there was a building in Elon named after her. April Mitchell, she's a younger individual, but she owns Pat Soul Food, the restaurant. Well, they started as a food truck and now they have a restaurant and they also have a beauty salon. So we have documented all these various stories, and I did want to share. Okay. All right. I did want to share some of these stories. So I am going to play some of these videos, and this is from what we did last year. In 2020, of course, because of COVID, we were not able to do a in-person display like we did this year, at the end of 2021. So what we did instead was a virtual presentation of these videos, and it was really more so for the individuals that we interviewed and their families. This year, we was able to open it up to the public so anybody could come and view these stories. And once again, these stories are online on our website, and they are also on, this is the Power in Place website. So if you Google Power in Place at Elon, this is what comes up. And this is when we interviewed Miss Tamara Kersey. She's our background there, but these videos are also on here as well. Oh, Chuck Fager, who now resides in Raleigh, and he used to work out in Snow Camp for the theater out there. He marched with Dr. King, and he also was arrested with Dr. King, and he wrote books on his experience. So his story is one that I want to share really quickly. These are 5-minute videos, so it doesn't take up a lot of time. But I did want to show 1 or 2 of these videos so that you guys can see how we document. Now, mind you, his video was in 2020, so we had to do it completely virtual. So the way that we did the story documenting in 2020 was that we had, well, with him, it was completely virtual because he lived in Raleigh and he didn't have transportation, but we had the interviewee come in to the Mako Bigelow Center over at North Park. And we had the students do the whole interview virtually. So the only person that was there in person would be the interviewee, myself, Bobby Ruffin, who is the director over at North Park, and then Sandy Marshall. Oh, and Danielle Lake as well. Danielle Lake is another professor. She is in, oh man, I forget what it's called, design thinking. She's a professor in design thinking. But this is, I'm gonna blow this up. And hopefully the sound works. So let me know if you guys can hear this.
Shineece, we can't hear it.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me see if I can figure this out real quickly. I think there is a way to share audio. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. And if anybody is good with technology, help is nice.
Shineece, I was going to offer maybe reshare your screen. And when you reshare on the bottom left, there is a share my sound that you can click. Share with sound.
Okay, let's see if that works.
Charles Eugene Fager. I was a sophomore in high school. We were at a high school on a military base. It was actually in Puerto Rico. And the first day we had an English class, and the teacher was a guy named Mr. Brown, and he came in and he gave us, I don't know, he wrote something on the board. We were supposed to write a theme, write a paper right then. So I wrote something. I don't remember what it was. I sure would like to have it. And he picked them up and he brought them in the next day. I mean, this is a true thing. I don't think I could put it in a novel, but it's a true experience. He came in the door. We were sitting there, I don't know, 25 of us or something. And he walked over to me and he put down my paper and he said, loud enough so the whole class could hear him. He says, Fager, you have a future in writing. Well, I have had a future in writing. It hasn't made me rich and it hasn't necessarily made me famous, but I've done a lot of writing. Writing can be a skill and a craft. The distinction is writing can be a craft, and I know how to do writing as a craft, but there's also writing as a calling. Sometimes it gets attention and a lot of times it doesn't, and I like it when it gets attention, but I'm not deterred when it doesn't. In Dr. King's organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, it was a black-run organization. There was no doubt about that. I was not coming in to take over anything for anybody. I was a rookie. I told people when I was in Selma, other white people would come in after me, and I'd be walking around in some civil rights uniform, sort of. We had a uniform for a while, overalls, and sort of a Levi jacket. And they'd look at me and they'd say, gee, what do you do here? And I'd say, I'm going to school because I don't know squat. I didn't know anything about the South. I didn't know about black people. I didn't know much about white people, especially not Southern. Well, ever published, called White Reflections on Black Power. And it came out of the experience of working in the civil rights movement. My second book is about the Poor People's Campaign. It's called Uncertain Resurrection. This campaign, the first Poor People's Campaign, it started out with all the publicity and all the support you could ever ask. People were still trying to do right by Dr. King after his murder. But it imploded. It was a massive, awful, complete flop. I did things like, I wrote these books. I wrote 4 books about this. And I'm a writer, so that's what I do. Suppose that you might find somebody that said, well, why is Chuck Fager, a white guy, writing about this black people movement? Well, because I got a chance to, and I was there, and I risked my neck, and so I'm telling the story. I mean, you want to write about it? Well, go ahead. I don't own it. For white people who are concerned about working on racism, the idea about racism being systemic, it doesn't bother me. I'm not threatened by that idea. You want to work on racism? You don't have to go to Washington. You don't have to go to Raleigh. I mean, you don't even have to go to Burlington because it's all around. Okay? And the impact of it, the effects of it, the prospects for it, it's all around you in all sorts of different forms. Some of them are visible, lots of them are not. I was in the civil rights movement. We got the Voting Rights Act passed. I mean, we, speaking of big we, a whole lot of black people struggled for it. Dr. King, Lyndon Johnson was a key figure in this, president. And that made a big, big difference for a while. But the adversaries of that never gave up, and they have pretty much demolished it. That is a heavy thing for me to think. You thought you won a war, and then it turns out you only won a battle. And as a matter of fact, what you won has been pretty much demolished, and you've largely lost it. And in fact, the prospects look pretty scary. You guys gonna have a lot to work on. So the important point here is that the struggle with racism and its impact is a long-term story. If this is your call, you got to find a place in it, and you may have to make a place in it. There's a sort of a gospel song, all God's creators got a place in the choir. Well, you got to find your place in the choir, and sometimes you got to make your place in the choir, and sometimes you got to change your place in the choir. But there's a place for you.
So that was Chuck Fager, and as you can see, he's a very interesting man. The other one I want to share with you guys, and I also want to point out that these interviews lasted an hour, and the students had to edit these videos down to a 5 to 6 minute clip. So all the clips are a lot shorter. And when we move forward with our Power in Place Collaborative, the one feedback that we got from students is that they wanted more time, because a lot of the stories, it was hard to cover everything within that 1 hour. So the other story I wanted to share with you guys, actually I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to see if I can find Phaedra Blackwell's story real quickly. But Phaedra Blackwell was one of, and Phaedra, for those who don't know, Phaedra Blackwell, he is the owner of Blackwell Funeral Home. But his story was one of the ones that the students, this would have been from 2020 as well, that the students said that they felt like they needed more time with. 2020, he should have been in 2020. Huh. Oh, there it is. But his story was very captivating because of all he has done throughout his life with the community. And I actually grew up, went to school with Phaedra's son, and a lot of the stuff he was saying, I had absolutely no idea. So this was like a longtime community member person that I've known, but had no clue of all the stuff that he had done when he ran for office out in Caswell County. And just so many amazing things. And we don't always get to have those stories preserved unless we sit down and ask our elders. From personal experience with my grandfather, knew my grandfather my whole life. That man was 89 years old and was retired ever since I was born, because he would have been in his 60s, I think, when I was born. So he had been retired my entire life. And I had never sat down until the year that he passed, sat down with him and asked all these questions. And we got a chance to, my mom actually got a chance to record a lot of the stories, because I had no clue what school he had went to back in the day. Because mind you, he would have grew up in a period where schools were not integrated. So he would have went to an all-Black school. Had no clue how that worked out in Caswell County, because back then there was no transportation. So he was walking 5 miles to go to school. Also working on the farm as well. So I had never heard of any of these stories until I sat down and was asking all these questions, like, where'd you go to school? You know, did you even complete school? I've never seen a diploma. So, so I was like asking all these questions and realizing, this is back in 2018, but realizing for the first time that I never knew my grandfather's story because I never sat there and asked him these questions. So it was amazing that I did get a chance to ask all these questions and collect some of his stories before he passed away. But Phaedra's Blackwell story was one of those stories that I was like, man, I've known you for a long time and I had no idea you did all of this, which is why we do this, which is why we try to uncover these stories and preserve these stories. But I'm going to go ahead and share Phaedra Blackwell's story.
I was 24, I believe, when I was elected to the school board in Caswell County, being the first minority elected there. A lot of the people were older than I, but they got behind and galvanized their support. Caswell had one of the highest registration of minority people at that particular time per capita as far as the state, which meant that we got out and we wanted to change things. It wasn't fair to see people going to school, to see school teachers being hired or not hired, without having a school board that would actually hire these people. So the bridge builder, by being the first, was very interesting. I went to a lot of meetings. I went to a lot of conferences. I traveled. I went to a lot of state meetings with the state school board, things of that nature. The second time I got ready to run for school board, I won the first night. But there were two Blackwells on the school board. One was white, one was black. We always said we were cousins anyway, and we probably were. And he came to me and told me, he says, "You're going to lose this election. They're going to take it from you." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "They're going to take it from you." And so surely enough, they called me 3 days later and said, "We made a mistake." And I had lost the election. I ran for House and I ran for county commissioner. When I ran for county commissioner, I won. I became the second African American to become elected to the Caswell County school board, county commission. But what happened was this. They said because I owned healthcare facilities that I was going to have to resign as the chair, not as chair, but as a member of the county commission. They were not going to even allow me to be sworn in. And I said, the devil is a lie. I will be sworn in. But I went to the Attorney General's office, Lacey Thornburg at that time. And when I went there, I said, well, I can lease out my healthcare facilities in Caswell County, because if the county commissioners control the budget for healthcare facilities, they only control it for their particular county. Well, the Attorney General told me, yes, I could lease them out, my facilities in Caswell, but I was going to have to lease them out everywhere, including Rockingham as well. And it wasn't financially, how can I say this, affordable for me to be able to do that. So I allowed myself to be sworn in. And then after I was sworn in and we made a couple of motions, I then resigned. So the history books cannot cheat that I was sworn in as the county commissioner.
Are you still involved in politics here in Burlington, or have you taken a step back now that you are doing more entrepreneurial work?
Step back, but not really. My whole thing about it is that I'm looking forward to the younger generation. I'm looking forward to the young people that we may get a chance to influence, to talk to be able to mentor, to be able to tell you some of the mistakes that we made as a society that we can do better. My part is to get people to become more engaged from the beginning part. And I think that happens when you build bridges. And so the whole part of about is, what are you doing to really make the world better? I have 3 lovely grandkids, the grandsons, and I want to make sure that they grow up in a society where they do feel the strength of people pulling together, where they're not judged on the base of their color, but on the contents of their character. I thank God that I was given the opportunity to build bridges, and also the courage to be able to do what needed to be done.
Okay, so that was Phaedra Blackwell. And there's so many other really good stories that we have. I just wanted to share 2 of them with you guys. But we are moving forward with our collaboration. So towards the end of this year, we do plan to collect more stories. So we're identifying individuals now. Also, what we are doing here at the center, outside of our partnership with Elon, is we are putting together a series of documentaries. And this one will be more geared towards the younger generation. So we actually are starting with a basketball team that was created here in Alamance. Oh my goodness, their name just escaped my head just now. Can't think of what they're called, but this was a group of young men that got together and started a basketball team here locally. So we'll be covering their stories towards the end of March. And our goal is to constantly have an ongoing collection of stories. But we really wanted to start with some of the younger folks, the younger activists, community game changers, people that are wanting to make some sort of change here in Alamance County, want to document those stories as those stories are happening. And the reason why we want to document more young people and what they're doing now is because they'll have something to look back 20 and 30 years from now and see how perspectives have changed since then. It's kind of like that idea of what would you tell your younger self about the path that you're on idea. So we are constantly collecting and documenting stories. So now I'm going to, how much more time do I have?
I think we're good. Shineece, would you be willing to share your mom's story?
Yeah, sure.
I don't want to put you in a bad spot or anything, but I just think it would be so cool to share her story with her granddaughter also on our program today.
Absolutely. I got to remember which one of these, because so here's the funny part. Every single time I share my mom's story, to me, it's so funny because I've been hearing this stuff my whole entire life. But, like, I remember in this one, this is probably the shortest one. But she talks about my dad and why she married my dad, because she got married right after high school, which she'll tell people don't do. But what's funny about it, she always has said throughout my life that she married my dad for his mom. She was marrying his mom, not him, because her and my grandmother were like really good friends. They were really best friends. I don't remember my grandmother because I was a baby when she passed away. But it's almost like I knew her somehow. So I never met her. Well, I met her, but I just feel like I've always known her. So you said I'm good on time. Is it okay if I show the?
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to derail your program, but I just think that would be so cool.
No, you're fine. You are absolutely fine. So I will share this one.
Okay, I think part when we first spoke, I shared with you about how we even got here of the African American Culture Art and History Center. Well, this binder right here is the result of that. We had started out trying to make the Richmond Hill community, which was located off Rawhut Street, a historic district where Jordan Sellars School and a lot of prominent African American businesses were. And so in doing so, it really required us to do a lot of research. And so this was one of the binders that I put together in that process of researching the whole area.
So what did Raleigh say when you brought this to him?
Oh, so when Raleigh came down and Miss Brown, she and I met and I showed her all of this, and we drove around the area and looked at all the buildings, and she was like, well, they've made changes about this area, and in this building, the windows are not the same, where the laundromat used to be a laundromat, it's not a laundromat now, it's a store, and they've added a little bit on. So she disqualified those buildings because of some alterations. And even Jordan Sellars School not having the original entrance because they had to change it because the school system uses it now for offices and meetings and things, and it had to have handicap accessibility. So because of all that, that disqualified that predominantly the area from being a historic district. And so I said to her, Miss Brown, I said, so what is the criteria that goes into making a historic district? And of course, I already knew the answer, but she told me that buildings that are original, pretty much in their original state with little to no alterations over a certain given time period, or a major event. I said, oh, okay. I said, a major event. And she said, yeah. I said, well, okay, well, you can't get any bigger than the riots of 1969. where Leon Mebane, a 14-year-old boy, was shot over 17 times and is still an unsolved homicide
Still.
to this day. There was no arrest made. There was no police report done. There was nothing. 50 years. This year is 49. Next year will be 50 years of this young man's death, and there's still no answers. There's still no answers. That's the story of Leon Mebane and the riots of 1969, which was the major story that went national, went all over. I mean, articles here all over the United States. Got news articles from, what is this one from? West Virginia. What is this one? Oh, that was a Burlington one. This one is Michigan, Illinois, Iowa. That's another Iowa. That's Wisconsin. All over. So when I asked Claudia, I said, so can't get any bigger than riots 1969. But again, like I said, after we did, after we did our due diligence, and we felt like it was more important to preserve Alamance County's history as a whole, because though that was a sad thing that happened and it's an unsolved, there's so much positive. There's so many legacies that African Americans have done that's noteworthy to talk about. There's a lot of people in the city. We all do. We want to see a more unified county. And I feel personally, I really truly believe in my heart that there are more people in Alamance County that want to be unified than there are people that want to be divided. I've been in Alamance County my whole life. And so I really do feel that. I really feel like that the regardless of the era that we're living in under this presidency that we have and a lot of the rhetoric that we see, I really feel that in our county, though we have our differences of opinions about different views, whether it's political or not, I do feel like that the majority of the people in Alamance County really want to be a unified county. I really hope that the community get a glimpse of the positive things that African Americans have contributed to this county, because there is a lot, but also be aware and know that though there is a lot of positive, there are some things that are the difficult conversations that we have to have and need to have in order to really have a unified community, because things that are swept under the rug and not talked about, they fester and it only gets worse. And so we're about the healing process and having this history preserved is not just for the African American history. It's not for just African American people. It's for the community. It's for everybody. We are a unified community, and we have vast different groups of people here that has done many, many major contributions, and all of it needs to be shared. I love to hear what the Occaneechi tribe has to have to say. I like to hear what the Latino community have to hear. I like to hear what the LGBT community have to say, because, we're all in this community together, and we all have experiences, and we all have one thing in common, is that we are of the human race. We're one with each other. I'm no different from you, you're no different from me. We're one with each other.
So, believe it or not, my mom used to tell me that all the time. We are one with each other. That was her go-to saying. When I would come home and I would complain about anything, she was like, "Well, why does that bother you?" And then I'm like, "What do you mean? Why does it bother me? I just told you." And then she was like, "Yeah, but we are one with each other. So what is it about them?" And then so she was always like this kumbaya person, and which is a good and bad thing, because I used to complain about it a lot. But those binders that she showed, we still do have those. That is exactly where it all started. My mom was an extreme note taker, but very organized. She was like this extreme organized note taker. So we're actually able to have displays that we have here because of her work, because of her research. And she was just so super organized. So everything had a binder. We still do have the Leon Mebane binder with that documentation in it, along with the Richmond Hill, and then people that she had identified here in Alamance County that she wanted to recognize. We have a binder for that. So literally we have a binder for everything. She just was always documenting things. And so she was, because of her work and how organized she was, we were able to even have the center today. So, but yeah, that's my mom. Is there any questions? And I apologize if people have been typing in the chat. I have not, let me try to stop sharing for a second. I have not seen it.
Does anybody have questions for Shineece? I just love hearing the stories. I think what you've shared has been awesome. Do you have pictures of things that are in the museum there that you want to share? Or
sure, let me and normally what I do with presentations like this, I normally would kind of go through the timeline a little bit, but I'll just let you guys come into the center to see those. Let's see if we have some, because I want to say there are, oh, maybe there's not any online. Okay, so apparently I don't have pictures online for our exhibits, but the exhibits that we do have that are in person are right. Well, they change. We're changing them once a quarter. So right now we do have pictures and images of the Black Bottom, the businesses that were in the Black Bottom, which was the district in downtown Burlington along Worth Street that was filled with Black businesses prior to about early 1950s. Around the 1950s, those businesses ended up moving to Raha Street. We do have the display of actually, let me see if this is in one of my old presentations. We have a display of the Reconstruction era and the Kirk Holden War, which I'm sure a lot of you may have heard of the Wide Outlaw story. But yep, I don't have any pictures from the center.
okay, that's all right.
But we do have the various different displays that you guys can come in and see. And once again, just referring to, if you go onto the website, in the background, let's see, these are actual images from the center. So that noose that you saw, those from the Wide Outlaw display. We have several yearbooks out on display. And I would also like to say, if anybody is at a high school in the 1960s and you still have your yearbook, we would love to see it. What we are looking for is those years prior to the schools fully integrating, where there was a couple of African-American students, because what happened prior to the schools fully integrating, there was a group of some students that were sent to the white schools before the full integration process happened. So at Williams, I do have some pictures that someone had sent me a long time ago of some individuals that were at Williams the year before schools fully integrated. It was about 10 African-American students. I think I have the Western Alamance yearbooks. They're not in person, but they were online at on North Carolina Digital's website. We're also looking for pictures from yearbooks from Central and Jordan Sellars in that 1960s time period. So we're still actively collecting yearbooks. We have about 8 yearbooks, I believe, on display from Central. We have one yearbook from Graham, it's called Graham Negro High School prior to Central being built. Central was built in 1961. So we have one yearbook of that. I'm looking for more for that one. Also, I already mentioned Jordan Sellars. I think we got about 3 or 4 of those yearbooks. And then what's the one I'm forgetting? Jordan Sellars, Graham, and one more I'm forgetting. Yep, I'm forgetting one, but those are the schools we're trying to collect more yearbooks for. What else? Oh, this cloth is no longer on display. That was a mud cloth from Ghana. That was this thing right here. That's a mud cloth from Ghana, but that one's no longer on display. Some of the items that we had on display were on loan, so we did have to return those. So we only do have the pictures that are on our website. Any other questions?
Denise, this is Lisa. This is fascinating for me, and something I didn't know about as a resource in the community. How do you decide who to interview? Where do you come up with the stories?
Yeah, so sometimes it's from suggestions. Actually, here recently, a lot of time it has been from suggestion. So someone says, oh, I know this person and they have done this and that in the community. We need to collect their story. So we will reach out to them that way. In the past, it was people that we knew or that Bobby Ruffin knew over at Mako Bigelow Center that she had identified as somebody that needs to be interviewed. And sometimes, well, initially it was more so based off of age and how long they have been here in Alamance County. And then also if they were a business owner, because that was another topic we had identified to cover. And so sometimes when there's a topic that we want to cover, we kind of reach out to certain individuals that we know were there and around during that time period, such as Leon Mebane and his family, the story with Leon Mebane. We have a good relationship with Lisa Mebane, who's the sister of Leon Mebane. We have collected her interview on several occasions because we have been working on this documentary for some years now around that story, which hopefully one day I will be able to officially announce that we will be showing that documentary. It has been a project that we've been working on now for almost 3 years. So we have also, we'll also identify people if they were business owners, if they were involved in any way in ministry, activism, any sort of thing like that is how we identify people. But because I don't know everybody in Alamance County, we do rely on community members. So sometimes when we interview somebody or we ask somebody to be interviewed, we have, on a couple occasions, they have turned us away and said, well, I don't feel like my story should be documented. I don't feel like I did anything important or whatever. But then they'll suggest the next person and they'll be like, but I think such and such would be good to be interviewed. And so that's how that comes about as well.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for her?
Hi, Shineece. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I'm Tammy Hill, and this is just so interesting. I love that there's an actual place that people can go and see this, and it's a tangible part of our community. And I am with the Occaneechi tribe, so I know the struggle of trying to get things out there like this. Wanted to know, because Black churches are so integral in the whole situation of the culture, is there stories from the churches here in the area that that has been documented as well and has been a resource?
Yeah, so we have, this is interesting because the churches have been a source of documenting family history quite heavily. So we talk, we do more than just talk about First Baptist Church. We have worked with First Baptist and also Union Ridge Church before. They have their own, I guess, people within the ministry that collect and document a lot of history. And we have had people that have, those people who have come and dropped off things and shared things. We actually have a display now that is for the African American churches, because they have been a bubble of collecting history before any museum has ever been built or anything. They have actively collected and documented family history. So we would like to do more with the churches. We do collab with them and communicate with them, but we only have really a small fraction of the stuff that they have inside of their church homes. And also, do you know, what is her name? Cavalier. What is her name?
Crystal Cavalier.
Yes.
She's a tribal member.
Yes. So we had a presentation together some time ago. Well, not together, but we were on the same presentation. And so a lot of the history that she uncovered and was talking about connected to the African Americans. So we've actually been trying to connect for probably about the past year. And she's busy and I'm busy, so we haven't been able to get our schedules to align. But we definitely wanted to incorporate the indigenous history here, because it does tie into the African American history.
She's actually on our board of directors, Shineece.
Is she? Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we have got to connect. I think I have her number. We just keep missing each other.
Right. All right. Other questions?
Shineece, did you see the note from Roxana in the chat that your mom was her teacher assistant at Pleasant Grove Elementary?
Remember those days? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm moving out of my house right now, and I have been uncovering little things my mom had as a teacher. There was this little tote bag with oh my goodness, it was like a little chalkboard on it and like a little apple with a ruler. It's just a little decorative tote bag. But yes, I actually was on the bus, because she was also driving the bus to pick up students and drop them off at school. So I was there. I remember.
Yeah. I miss her so much, and I'm so proud of you for taking on your mom's work. This is a great thing that you are continuing. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, you said I was 4 years old. That's like the only memory I have from that age.
It was very important, wasn't it?
Yes, but I remember that. She used to drive the bus to pick up the students, and I was on the bus ride with her.
Right. I can't wait to see you in person.
Absolutely. Go come by Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. We are open. Well, not this Saturday, guys. We do have a event at Ebenezer this Saturday, so we will not be open this Saturday because of that event.
Shineece.
Yes.
I used to do some oral history work for the Graham Historical Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the places that has a really rich history is Children's Chapel, as well as the First Baptist Church of Graham. It's the Black First Baptist Church of Graham. It's the First Baptist Church. But Children's Chapel and First Baptist Church in Graham, and it's the Black First Baptist Church.
And Miss April, I wanna because I was in a presentation with you not that long ago, probably like a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to. I think you mentioned Miss Nettie Baldwin.
Yes.
And I just want to say to you, you spoke her into existence, because she popped up here last week.
Did she?
And yes, she did. She came by, and I told her, I said, you know, somebody had just recently mentioned your name as somebody we needed to interview. And so we are going to connect, and we are going to document her interview. But she popped up here at the center last week. It was Friday. I think it was last Friday.
I just took down your website to send to her.
Yep. Yeah. Well, she came by, and I said, you must have spoke her up.
And her husband is really interesting too.
Yeah, and I don't know much about her husband. but I did ask her about him. And we're looking at possibly doing an interview of them together. So we'll be working on that.
Okay, and I have some footage of them too. So I would like to, can you put your telephone number in the chat?
I can.
Direct message. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, Miss Tammy. I see your comment in the chat as well. Thank you.
These kind of connections are what this is all about. That's awesome. Other questions for Shineece before we do our drawing?
I do have a question, Shineece, about, I see that you all have a donation thing on your website, but do you all have a funding source that helps you all to stay open and be a part of the community as a resource?
Absolutely. So we are mostly funded, maybe not mostly, but we are funded by Alamance County. So there is what they call an occupancy tax here in Alamance County. And that is something that you pay when you go and stay at a hotel. That money is collected by the county and then distributed to about 5 or 6 local nonprofits, and we are one of those. So we do receive money from that. This year has been, well, really the past 2 years has been a really crazy growth year for us. So we have, of course, we do receive money through donations, but we also have gotten about $100,000 in grant funds that has allowed us to continue to do our events and to reach out more to the community and to actually start some new projects, some things that we have talked about doing but have not been able to execute. One of those is to get more into the high schools. We're working on that now to do more presentations with the high schools so that they would know this information. Eventually we'll branch out to middle and elementary age students because right now we do a lot with Elon. We wanted to expand our Elon partnership as well to other local colleges such as A&T, Bennett College, and one day maybe even in Central, that's in Durham. So we've been able to get some grant money that's allowed us to continue to operate our programs and do outreach to the community. And Ms. Satterfield, yes, we are available for group tours. For the group tours, my only request is that you call in advance to schedule, just so that there's somebody here that can walk you through the whole, because you can come in anytime and look at all of this stuff, but you don't really get the full story unless you do a tour, because it's a lot to read and understand. So once again, we do it in a way that is a storytelling piece, which it just makes sense. So I call it when the students come in, for those who watch TV, for those who still have TV, there's something called drunk history. What is it called? Yeah, I think it's called like drunk history. Yes. And so that's how I give it to the students. I say this is drunk history, where it's broken down in a way where you'll understand.
What else for Shineece? That's a great question about funding, Tammy. Very important for nonprofits. All right. Hearing no other questions, I think it's time for our, Shineece, what are the visitation hours for the center?
Yes, so our typical hours are Thursday and Fridays. We are open 10 to 5. On Saturdays, we are open 11 to 5. Coming up in the month of March, we do plan on extending those hours past the 5 o'clock on Thursdays and Fridays. But those are the hours as of now. If you follow us on Facebook, please, because that's where we typically post all of our updates, any sort of announcements. We do post onto our Facebook page. Once again, this Saturday, we will not be open because we do have our event at 3 o'clock, which will be at Ebenezer. And I would invite you all, but it looks like we're sold out. So I apologize. We will not be able to accept because of the venue's COVID restrictions and whatnot. We're only able to accept 150 people. So we have sold that event out. And I'll put that in the chat as well. Thursday and Fridays from 9 to 5 or 10 to 5, and Saturdays 11 to 5.
All right, last call for questions. Y'all keep sneaking them in there. That's great. All right, Shineece, thank you so much. So informative. And I'm a Caswell County girl myself. I assume you went to BY, or did you travel out of county? Yep.
So I actually initially went to Baliansi. After my freshman year, we moved closer to the Burleson area, which put me at Western.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. All right. So thank you again, Shineece. We really enjoyed it. So glad to have something like this in our county. Such important work that you do. And thank you so much for being here. You and Raleigh.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to bump it over to Echo Bloom to do our drawings.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, so I want to extend a congratulations to Bob, who won the mug. Congratulations, Bob. You have a new coffee mug. And then the Vera Bradley bag. Congratulations, Logan Savitz.
All right. Is Logan still on here?
I am. Hi.
Okay, there she is. Hey, Logan, congrats.
Yay, thank you.
Just a reminder, our next Working Women's Wednesday will be in person, March 23rd at the Alamance Country Club. Vaughn Willoughby of Pritchett Farms Nurseries will be there. Thank you all for coming. We know that you could do any number of things for your lunch hour today, and you chose to join us, and so we really appreciate it. Thanks again to Shineece for the presentation and for showing us about the center. And Tammy Hill just put in, for anybody further interested in history of the area, the Occaneechi Tribes website. So check that out as well. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next month in person.